means you can do less at home. And so on, and so on, and so on. So the ramifications of this will be very impactful on everybody around the world, more on non-Western countries, because a lot of them are going to be in the front line of this in the way that I doubt we will be. But still, the consequences for us will be very significant.
And we're seeing, adjacent to this rise in socialism.
Yeah.
The conversation around socialism. Obviously, Mamdani has been elected mayor. But do you think this is at all linked to the bigger picture, this rise in socialism?
Yeah, in fact, I think, I wrote an article a long time ago called Why I Fear the Future, and I did a video based on it, in which I talked about something. It's interesting, I did a live show here in London just before Christmas, and I did a book signing, and one of the guys came up to me and said, I've got 2 kids, they're both teenagers, daughter and a son, and I'm trying to pull the daughter in from the far left, and I'm trying to pull the son in from the far right. That's going to be the big challenge going forward, because the amount of chaos and instability and cultural upheaval that we've seen has produced a craving for order. And on the social, that's the right side. We must, get this. And on the other side, it's produced a sense of injustice and the pursuit of inequality. That's why you hear people talk so much about the rich, the rich, the rich, the rich. And, eat the rich, we've got to redistribute all of this stuff. Because particularly in the big cities, young people rightly feel that they can't really get on the housing ladder. They can't establish a family. Life is more difficult. So they reach for these very disproven, discredited and completely unworkable solutions of the kind Mamdani will of course deliver. But it's because their sense is that the future has been taken away from them. And in many ways they're correct. Because as I said earlier, we have been borrowing from our children and our grandchildren. We've been saddling with crippling debts on the entire economy. That will come to an end, and it's going to be them that is left to foot the bill, and it's going to be very painful. And partly they see that, and already they see that they just can't afford the life that they want. I do think in the United States it's a much more contained phenomenon. I think Mamdani, and if you look at sort of the American socialists, they all tend to cluster around New York and 1 or 2 other big cities. It's not like the entirety of America is going socialist. But I think housing unaffordability is one. Another explanation, which I think is also powerful, is what's called elite overproduction, which is if you have, as Tony Blair did, this idea that 50% of the public should go to university. Well, they do, and then it turns out there's not enough jobs for them, particularly in the age of AI, where they are the jobs that are being eliminated very rapidly. You then get a lot of people whose entitlement is up here and whose prospects are down here. That produces a tremendous amount of social disease.
I think this is a really important connected point on the subject of socialism and the rise of socialism that we will see is this point of AI. And when I listen to very, very smart people who are considered to be the godfathers of AI or CEOs who are building these technology companies, there seems to be a consensus that socialism will only increase because the job losses associated with AI are going to be pretty quick and pretty extreme. And one of them that most Brits won't understand is something we understand now living in America, which is my car drives itself.
Yes.
And I've said this a few times because I'm really trying to, it's like the first eureka moment I think you have is in America. When I get in my car, I don't touch the steering wheel or the pedals, and it can drive me to Joshua Tree, which is like 2.5-3 hours away, uninterrupted. And I say this because driving is like one of the biggest employers in the world. I think it is the biggest profession in the world. And London just announced that Waymos are here, and soon, surely, Teslas will be allowed to do full self-driving here as well. And in such a world, delivery drivers, taxi drivers, Uber drivers are going to be without jobs. And we're seeing this huge rise in autonomous humanoid robots as well. And Elon's pay packet says that he will make 1 million of these autonomous robots and get them out into the world. And Jason Calacanis, who just visited Elon's factory, said there'll be 1 billion of these, and he thinks that we won't even remember Tesla for making cars. We'll only remember them for the robots they're made, because these Optimus robots, which are coming, are going to be so consequential. And the last point here is a very good friend of mine who runs this big sort of innovation accelerator in San Francisco. I visited the accelerator a couple of weeks back, and I said to him, why is everybody here, all these young founders, these 40, 50 young founders in your building called Effing, all working on robotics? And he goes, well, we've had all the parts for like 20, 30 years, but the expensive part was the intelligence.
The brain.
Yeah, the brain. He goes, now we have the brain. He said he showed me this arm, this robotic arm, that had a frying pan that would cook for you. In a box, it just cooks whatever you want in a box. And he goes, we've had all these parts for the last 30 years. They were cheap. He goes, the intelligence part, the brain, would cost $20,000 or $30,000 just for this little robot arm. Because now it's like 2 cents.
Yeah.
And he says you're seeing this huge explosion of robotics. I don't think people understand what's coming.
No, and going to San Francisco is eye-opening on 2 levels. Number one is like a quarter to a third of the cars on the road don't have drivers.
Yeah.
And just visually seeing that is so striking. But the other thing is talking to some of the people involved. There are some people who are fairly sensible about it, fairly responsible among the founders, although they will still say, and I think they're right, that like if we don't do this, China will, so we've got to do this. But there's also a lot, and I'm sure you've heard that. There's a kind of, that famous Facebook mantra of move fast and break things. Mm-hmm. There's a lot in the end of the space. And so it's going to be hugely impactful. I don't claim to know all the details of how that will play out, other than to say it's going to be very disruptive. And disruptiveness has happened throughout human history. It's always produced a backlash. It's always caused a lot of disease, but then humanity has managed to recover. This is a different level, and we will see how it plays out. But yeah, of course it's going to be, and yeah, a world in which millions of people no longer have jobs, and most of them are disproportionately young people who are more prone to extremism anyway. Yeah, that's not a great picture.
And one would assume that the wealth will accrue to a few.
Yes.
In such a scenario.
And what's funny is I have said, really only half jokingly, I mean, I wrote a whole book about my opposition to communism and socialism based on experience, but in a world in which no one has a job, I'm like 100% on board with communism.
Do you think that's the world we're heading towards?
Possibly, yeah. But it makes sense. I mean, like, if you think about it from the perspective of 50 people in the world have all the money in the world and everyone else has no job, I think a little bit of wealth redistribution is going to be unavoidable in that situation, and it can either happen voluntarily or it's going to happen at the end of bayonets. That's the choice.
And when you say communism would be the only choice in such a scenario, what does that mean?
It means everybody gets paid for existing, right? Well, I mean, what else is there? You're going to create fake jobs for people? That's not going to work. Right. So if all the wealth in the world is going to be created by robots, a world in which the products of their labor, it only accrues to 50 people who had the idea or did the work 20 years ago, that's not going to sustain itself. And so it would be very, very unwise of those people to attempt to hold on to all that wealth. It would not end well for them, in my opinion.
On a personal level, this disruption is going to happen in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Are you thinking much about it or planning for it at all? Has it changed any of the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis or month-to-month basis?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I am probably a little harder to replace with a robot just because people don't really want to hear robots' opinions, I would imagine. We might get to that point, but I think it's unlikely. So on my own level, I'm probably, the timescale I'm working to in the next 10 years, I imagine I'll get to myself to a point where I'm going to be reasonably comfortable no matter what happens. For my children...
That was us cutting forward 10 years. And
Yeah. Just totally, me just unemployed, long... Mate, I can't believe what happened. For my children, it's a very different conversation. So a lot of people are like, well, what should I teach my children? And people are, oh yeah, this should be a plumber. I don't think you're going to need plumbers 15, 20 years from now either. So I honestly don't know what that future looks like. And in many ways, that's always been the reality of life for most people. We are living through one of those great transitions in human history in which all you can do is equip your children with the basic skill sets of life, as opposed to what might have been done 20, 30 years ago, where like you go to school to develop a skill, to go to university to build a career. Now you're going to have to show a lot of flex in this modern world. So you're going to have to be personable. You're going to have to be resourceful. You're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to have a positive go-getter mindset. You're going to have those basics nailed down, as opposed to here's the career that you've been predetermined to have. Unless, of course, you go into AI and robotics, in which case you probably won't be replaced for at least 5 years.
I think there's something to the fact that there's an angst with AI. And when, people listen to podcasts all the time, everyone who has a job in a big corporate environment now is being told by their CEO that you better learn AI or it's going to replace you. So we're living in this moment of there's like aliens coming over the horizon and we've spotted them. They're not quite here yet. But it's like saying to the general public, look, there's aliens coming and they're coming for your job and everything you value. That angst in and of itself, I think, can drive people towards ideas like socialism, understandably,
Yeah.
Because it's a deep existential angst.
And also a lot of the AI people, not all of them, a lot of them are but a lot of them are being deeply irresponsible and very unwise with their messaging. Last time I was in New York, I was walking through Times Square. There was this giant billboard which said, it was the name of the company, which I don't remember, "Stop hiring humans. The age of the AI employees here." I'm going, have you really thought about this? Have you thought about putting your company's name on this poster? Do you understand the impact this is going to have on a normal person looking at that? But they are the thing is with AI is the positive upsides of it are limitless, literally limitless. And so a lot of the people who are in that space, that's what they focus on. And they're like, we can solve cancer, we can solve medical problems, we can have AI that's better than any physicist that's ever lived, that can give us the eternal engine or whatever. We don't need energy anymore. Like, there are all sorts of crazy things that come out of AI that are potentially beneficial, and that is exciting. But the angst that you talk about, I think, is there, and I think it's also quite rational.
You just reminded me of a video that came out this week from Elon where he says this. I'll play it for you. I think it's this one's. So Elon's talking about the robots that are about to be released from Tesla, which are called Optimus. And someone's asking him how good they will be at surgery.
Do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way,
that's it. 3 years. 3 years at scale.
Yes.
There'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on Earth.
And the cost of that, but that's an important statement in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Because medicine, I'm
not like absolutely certain, but I'd say if you say like 4 years, I'd be absolutely
If it's 4 or 5 years, who cares? It's still an
extreme precision.
Yes. 3 years.
Yes. Better than any, probably, I'd say if you like, put a little margin on it, better than any human in 4 years.
Who's in plastic surgery.
By 5 years, it's not even close.
I think your point was medicine is going to be effectively free. The best medicine in the world.
Everyone will have access to medical care that is better than what the president receives right now.
So don't go to medical school.
Yes. Pointless.
Yeah.
Pointless going to medical school.
Look, he knows way more about this than I do. I would also say that I think both the incentive structure and his personal temperament lean towards a kind of optimism, and there's a sales dimension to this as well, obviously, because he's one of the people producing this stuff. So his optimism may be a product of the incentive structure that he's subject to. But even if it's not 3 years, I don't think it's more than 10 years. Yeah. So that's the time frame.